Welcome everyone to the final map of Sunlust, God Machine. Now this map is quite a long map. You'll be here for quite a while. And I was actually surprised this time. I made it in only 9 attempts rather than 700. It's pretty nice, I expected it to take longer. But the first thing you want to do, collect this bonus of armor, because that'll open a secret later, and then hit this switch to lower this wall. Within this room you'll be given what you really want, a megasphere. And it's also a mandatory part of the progression. Now you get to go into here. I decided not to pick up any of the chain guns because I got tired of waiting. It may have only been 9 attempts, but that doesn't mean that I didn't get tired of it. I mean, would you want to collect them every time? For this area, it's best, in my opinion, to try and go at it from this corner first. So I took down some of the enemies with rockets. And now you've got a sort of circle strafe going. Well, a quite convoluted circle strafe, but a circle strafe nonetheless. And as long as you don't mess up, you'll be able to slaughter everything here. Top priority is the Archvile, as always. So I'm gonna see if I can kill it without endangering myself. And if I can, then all the better. And it certainly looks like I can. Indeed. Now that the Archvile is dead, there's practically nothing threatening. But those chain gunners, if I ignore them, can chip away at my health a lot, so they'd better die next. This arena isn't done yet though, because I've still got some Archviles to deal with. And you might not want to kill enemies right next to those walls, because they'll just get resurrected. This switch is my deliverance of 3 Archviles. For some reason I was really prone to getting blasted by them in practice, but now it seems I'm the one doing the blasting. When you walk in here, everything comes back to life. I usually try and get an infight going, but that just doesn't work for some reason here. So I have to kill everything by hand a lot of the time. And it looks like I'm being intercepted by something that got randomly resurrected. Here you see infighting failing to happen. And here's some more failed infighting. You can hear stuff getting resurrected. Like this guy. It's unfortunate he blasted me, but I've got soul spheres. And that negates any damage done to me. Apart from armor. Armor is irreplaceable in many cases, unless you can get yourself a megasphere. Now that I've lowered that teleporter, I can hit this switch and hopefully not take too much damage on the floor. And then I want to walk up these stairs into a room that is infamous, but really shouldn't be because it's actually super easy. I don't think I died once here. And if I did, then I don't remember it, which I think I would out of 9 attempts. The beginning strategy is pretty simple. You just want to stun these guys so that they can't shoot at you much. But it doesn't always work. You'll take some damage. Doesn't matter how much damage you take though, as long as you don't die. Because you get a Megasphere. And that resets everything. So what I do here is pre-fire a rocket or two, and then just try and kill the Archviles as quickly as possible. Sometimes the Cyber helps me, that's brilliant, but not all the time, so you can't rely on him. Ironically, this is the most dangerous part of the fight in my opinion. Just don't get hit. For some reason it's a lot harder than you'd expect here. Maybe it's just the room geometry being weird. I'm not sure. That switch lowers the elevator back down, so you can get out. Up here we've got some pinkies that get crushed to death. And an elevator. I don't remember if I take that mega armor, but I certainly don't need it right now. Up here we have yet another switch. And then we jump down into this pathway. This teleporter is actually not too difficult of a fight. I don't think I died here once either, but to be honest, I didn't have many opportunities to die. I like hiding behind that pillar, and then jumping out to blast these guys. And then I try and do the same on the other side. It's kind of difficult to get that pain elemental right now. Sometimes they run away like they are now, but usually they did not. It's usually easier to just kill them. Right now the pain elemental's in a good position to be killed, but I need to secure this area a bit more first, so that I don't consume a rocket. I'm not entirely sure. Oh wait, now, I actually am sure. You know these weird, like, hybrid Baron Hell Knight things, which are... They're basically just two different enemies being placed exactly on top of each other in the map editor. The reason that they exist is actually pretty simple. Ribix, he said in the Sunlust map thread, like, they had done a lot of revisions to fix stuff, and then uploaded it to id games, which, from what I know, is kind of an annoying process. So, Ribix, after people told him that that was a problem, he just said, I can't be bothered. It's kind of funny. Given enough time, infighting will kill everything there except the Cyberdemon. But it's best to come down and make sure the infighting happens every now and then. I'm not sure what that Revenant's doing. For some reason, its pathfinding decided that it should run away. Which I guess is not a bad idea when it's fighting the player. When you shoot an enemy and it's infighting another enemy, it will not shoot at you unless unless the enemy kills the other enemy and you then shoot the enemy. I guess that's not the best explanation, but it should make enough sense. If you shoot an enemy that's not infighting, it will attack you, like it already was. But if you shoot an enemy that is infighting, it will not shoot back. Yeah, that's better. I'm not quite sure why the fight that I just left teleports me back to the beginning area, but it does. So, I have to go back. Maybe it gives you more options if you miss something, I guess. Now that I have the yellow key, I want to hit the yellow switch, which releases this archvile upon this pillar. You can just hide behind those other wall things that jet out of the wall. The yellow switch allows you to get to here, which is one of the famous fights of the map, the Cathedral. This is probably the hardest fight of the map. Yeah, it is. It is the hardest fight of the map. But it doesn't mean that there aren't other things which are also likely to kill me later. My strategy is to be somewhat cautious, actually. I don't want to take the full loop around to where those cells are. I just sort of take half the loop. And when I can, I go further. It's best not to overextend yourself. And of course, what you'd want to do at the beginning is kill the imps. I mean, what else would you do? This fight does actually take a while, but it stays dangerous throughout pretty much all of it, because of the Cyberdemons on top of those 3 pillars, as well as the one on the ground. If you can get the Cyberdemon to infight the Revenants after killing a bunch of Hell Knights, then that's brilliant. But it most certainly is not brilliant to take Hell Knight projectiles just like I did. It'd be even worse if you get hit by a Cybers. At this point, it's almost time for me to ascend the Revenant wall. Once they're all dead, that's what I'm going to do. And then I'll get the second of the 5 secrets. This secret allows me to instantly kill all of the Cyberdemons on pillars. I'm not sure why I chose to use the BFG here. Seems like a waste in hindsight. Just need the super shotgun. Now that the Cybers are dead, these Hell Knights will come after me. And since I have absolutely no rockets, it's time for the BFG. These barons now must die as well. There's nothing for them to infight with anymore. This is a deadly switch. I mean, it never killed me, but it releases archviles, and that's pretty deadly. Probably. These archviles really aren't a threat unless you become incredibly stupid and somehow manage to get blasted by all 5 of them. Luckily, I'm not that stupid at the moment, so I do not. Since I'm not coming back to this area ever, I just take that megasphere so I can raise my health back to full. And once these 3 switches are hit, you can leave the arena. You lower this lift, and then you get to proceed onward. Now, if I make it past that fight, this is where the run truly begins. This is where things start to get interesting. Although it looks like I was lost for a second there. I think this might have been... well, this was like 1 of 2 times that I got past the Cathedral fights. So I'm just forgetting what I do. But now I know what to do. You want to hit that thing, which you can only get by shooting. And that allows you to get to the secret fight. We've got a pretty good concept for this fight. It's quite interesting. Those 4 switches, you want to hit them as fast as possible though, if you're going to try and open that corner. Because once you jump down, it's timed when the Cyberdemons arrive. So make sure to be quick. Now we're in a bad situation because they decided to leave quicker than I could kill them. My goal right now is to just try and bunch them up, so I can get them 2 or 3 at a time like that. Until there are none left. Your reward for this is 2 megaspheres, neither of which I actually use, so not much for them. When you hit that switch, one of many switches, you open another secret, which gives you another megasphere. There's lots of megaspheres. This is another area that opens from the yellow switch, I believe. Within it are many chain gunners, and I like getting the plasma gun rather than the BFG. It doesn't go very well this time. Usually I don't take this much damage so quickly. But it's usually the final attempt that is the most interesting for some reason. The final attempt, your first exit, is always the one where everything goes wrong, and you survive despite the odds rather than with them. I like that. It makes the video more interesting. Also, those cacodemons, they are practically harmless. The biggest challenge is making sure you use your BFG most effectively. to get the most out of the least ammo. Somehow that guy got pushed all the way back to the wall. I'm not sure when that happened, but it was probably because of BFG tracers. Usually, this area allows you to profit with cells, rather than you losing cells, because it gives you quite a lot. Now I finally use that mecha armor that I mentioned near the beginning. Well, you don't have to pay any attention to how much damage you take here, as long as you get the Megasphere last. But having dispatched all my foes, it was time to move on to the next area. The beginning of this area might be one of the most precarious areas in the entire map. It's one of two encounters which I would consider somewhat luck-based, at least for me. Really, what has to happen in this beginning is you don't want to get hit by those archviles. If a bunch of them decide to attack you, there's nothing you can do about it. So you have to be very careful and be a bit lucky. Unfortunately, luck is not with me this run, so I have to use up both Megaspheres almost instantly. However, the Revenants, they're getting cut down pretty quickly. So it only gets easier and easier from this point. And soon I can move on to my next objective, the Archvile Walls. You want to stay away from the Archvile walls until you are able to start firing at them safely. The Revenants have to get cut down a decent amount for that to happen, but the Mencubi are more than up to the job. They usually outlive the Revenants, partially because I kill many of them myself. Now it's finally time. It's best to not get zapped by those guys, which can quite easily happen when you're running away from them. So use these raising and lowering things to your advantage if you can. As you can see, the Revenant population has drastically decreased. This will make things easier for me, up until there's none left. When there's none left, I'll start killing the Mencubi, and the Archviles will likely have ceased to live. Not the ones on the outside, unfortunately, but the ones on the wall. One down, one to go. Some things I should mention about this map while we're waiting is that this map is, in my opinion, not the hardest one in Sunlust. It might have been because of my rather, I guess, inconsistent strategies for map 29, but despite that, I still hold that 29 is far harder than this map. Another thing I should mention about this map is that I don't think, well, it's also not the best map in Sunlust. It's pretty damn good, but it is not the best one. I'll mention my favorites once we've concluded. But this one, well, it may be, well, it is definitely the longest, but that doesn't mean it's the best one. Although it is very fun. It's very nice. I like it a lot, except for one bit. You'll see. Also, I'm a bit... well, I am one of the many who are unfortunately bestowed the curse of allergies, so I'm a bit allergied right now, I guess you could say. My voice is probably a bit different than usual. And I'll probably have to clear my throat a few times before this is over. Nearly all the Mancubi are dead, so I'm also taking a look at these imps. And as we know, my looks are made out of rockets, and they blow the shit out of them. Looks like the last few survivors are about to die. Now that they're all dead, or almost all dead, I can focus on what's next. I'm going to be opening the door on this side first, because I can get a bunch of resources from that fight. And I'll want some of those resources for the fight that comes after. Although you can take those two fights in any order you want. But in this case, the Hell Knight and Baron fight comes first. I guess something about this map is that most things you do in it take a very long time. Well, maybe not a very long time, but quite a long time. You want to be careful right here. If you're unlucky, you can get zapped by archviles when you're around there. I figure that it's best to kill off these remaining imps now, so that they don't annoy me in any way later, when it will probably matter more. Eliminate as much risk as possible. That's pretty much what I was doing with this map. when I open this door, I'm greeted by a sight that not many would like. But fortunately, it's a sight that doesn't last long. Now I'm going to go on the in passageway, and usually some of them get knocked down, because the rocket splash damage is capable of doing that. For this fight, I actually never died here. It might be the most harmless fight in the map, but it's also a long fight, so sit back and watch while I hope to entertain you in some way. This fight has many rockets. This is useful to me because the next fight, the Revenant fight, I want a bunch of rockets for that fight because of how I started. And that first BFG rush, which I just did, that is the hardest part of this fight. There is no other place in which I can see myself dying here, unless I decide to just screw around. Also, the staircase just lifted. That's the way out of this fight. Once that staircase is lifted, you can technically just leave. But I cannot, because I have many enemies that I must massacre. Baron got knocked down. Now that's something about Boom. You can knock enemies off ledges. I'm not sure why that was added in Boom, but it's a thing that you can do. I was at one point thinking about using it to create a fight where you have to knock a Cyberdemon down using the BFG so that it can infight with a bunch of stuff below. But so far I've never gotten around to it. I think it could be quite interesting though. I've recently wanted to toy around with much more complex fights in my maps. So, whenever Aberration gets released, or something else that's getting worked on right now, which I'm a part of, you might see some of that. Maybe. Now this fight is finally over. Or we can do the Hell Revealed route and it's not over. But now it finally is. I want to take these rockets with me. As I said, I need them later. You also get some cells. You don't really need them though, not yet. This building, this door, it's a smaller room I think, but it's far more deadly. I hope to kill all the Archviles first, and then two-shot the Cyberdemons if possible. I don't think I get to do that here, but I do get to kill them eventually. Something else you should keep note of is that when you're on the side of this room that's closest to the Archviles, where I am right where I was, like right here and beyond, you can get zapped by the Archviles. So I decide to take that ammo so I won't have to later, when it'll be more difficult. Now this fight has got some cool mid-techs. That's what those lines are. And my strategy for it is just wait and blast all of these guys, as many as possible, from back here. This prevents most of the revenants on the opposite side from shooting at me, because they have no line of sight. And once I got down to lower health, I left that area. Makes things easier, and it also gives me the incentive to stay at maximum health, because it's somehow satisfying to have maximum health. Maybe it's just because it's a confirmation that you're good, or doing well. Not good. As you just saw, sometimes Revenant missiles can circle you. That is annoying. So you can just run back up into the top section to eliminate those orbiting missiles. You can exit this room from either side. Both sides has a lift like this one. And on this lift is the second diagonally facing switch. Now that I've hit those two switches, it's time to enter the final door. And within the final door is something that would give new players nightmares. Unfortunately, though, I pick up a megasphere like an idiot. I did not want to pick up that megasphere. It's a waste. Another bad thing that's happening is that I've got practically no cells. So I'm going to have to play cautiously and kill with rockets. But I've only got so many rockets. There's the possibility that I run out, since it takes, on average, 4 to kill an Archvile. And I'm wasting some still. Since the situation is getting pretty bad with my rocket supply, I decide that it's all in or all for nothing. And I do that, which really didn't have much risk, but it sounds better, and it sounds more interesting if I say it does. But it doesn't. On this side, you can also get hit by Archvile flames, so I'm being cautious and sticking to the corners where I know they can't see me. Here's the switch to the worst part of the map. This part is the most RNG dependent area. You want to run around this area as fast as you can. And then, try not to get hit by the Lost Souls like I did, and run around to this side. Once you've reached that side, run around to the other side, and hide. This will bring everything over to this side, and hopefully you're not unlucky. Sometimes you can get really unlucky here, and a Cyberdemon instead of a Hell Knight can come around the corner, which is not a pleasant sight to see. But here we have the most dangerous portion. Running to get that Archvile switch. What's happening right now happens. And if you're even more unlucky, you can get absolutely destroyed by a bunch of Archviles trying to zap you at once. Now at this point, do not target the Archviles at all. There's only one circumstance in which you would want to. And that's if one of them's ran out in the middle of a field on their own. Otherwise, ignore them. Try and stick to it as far out as you can. Stay as far away as you can from them so that they don't try and zap you, and they just get mauled and hit down. And while they're not actually going to get mauled, they'll get hit by projectiles. And over time, that will wear them down. Wear them down until they're dead. Or very weak. Then, you can kill them. I'm trying to also bring the pain elementals about. Once they get close enough, I can take out the back tail of them and establish a circle strafe. That time all of my shots missed, so that did not go well for me. Almost got zapped there. Another thing you're doing when you run around to these edges is you can break Revenant missiles like that. It's best not to get hit by a massive Revenant missile of death that insta-kills you, so I would recommend breaking Revenant missiles now and then. These pain elementals are pretty dangerous, actually. They're dangerous if you leave them alive too long. I'm trying not to, but they will be the last things alive. Soon, the Archviles will be weak enough that you can kill them, or at least get them down to die. And isolate them like that. There's only like 1 or 2 left, so I can kill them quite easily compared to before. It seems as if there are only pain elementals and a choice few revenants left. But I also have... well, I'm running lower on cells. I'm not completely out. I've got at least 1 more full reload of cells left. But the rest are either up here or part of the absolute final fight. A lot of lost souls like to go inside that area, so it's best that you kill them so they can't interfere at all later. Unfortunately for me, this pain elemental manages to not get hit by any of my shots, so I have to run around. So, the final arena. You have to deal with 16 archviles, which is quite a lot in some cases. It's not as many as you probably think it is, but it's still quite a lot. You only have to deal with them 2 at a time, though. Just don't miss too many shots. If you spend more than 2 shots on a quadrant of archviles, like that, I spent 3 shots, then you will run out of cells by the end. Just make sure not to screw up like I am. Luckily for me it didn't matter, but it may or may not for you. But that's it. Sunlust. It's done. So, I should find a better word than so. Alright. Sunlust. This map is... It's pretty good, actually, I would say. It's not the best, but it's not the worst. It's better than the first 3 maps of this episode, which I would consider the low point of Sunlust, which it's a pretty high low point, having maps 21, 22, and 23. The best maps, those ones are easy for me to pick. Map 28, Map 24, and Map 20. I really liked those maps because they felt like they were completely possible for me to do, and every time I died, it felt as if it was my fault, not the game's fault for giving me bad RNG. That cannot be said of map 29 and map 30. Although there's literally only one fight in map 30 which I would consider in any way luck-based. That would be the penultimate fight of this map, the one where they release like 1,000 enemies at once, and all those pain elementals. When you run for the archvile switch, you may or may not die. I'd say it's 50-50. In this case, I got lucky on my first try for that fight, but you may not, and that will certainly be annoying. So good luck to you, those who decide to. But Sunlust as a whole, it is most definitely my favorite map set, and it's remained that way since I played it. It is the most consistently excellent map set that I know of that is a 32 map set. So, play it if you have not. And if it is too difficult for you, well, there's difficulty settings. Use them. They're there for a reason. But that's about it. I'd like you to guess what I'm going to be playing next. There are 2 options. Stardate 20x6 and Swim with the Whales, so tell me what you'd rather me play. And goodbye.